Hello everybody and welcome to another amazing video of DIY investing. Today we are going to be talking about the trade tariffs, why this was a negative thing for the markets, what it means for the markets moving forward. Is this ultimately going to be a major black swan event that takes place before the prices of crypto drags much lower from here? Or is this just a FUD event before the markets are finally able to make that next major breakout? I have all the most important charts that are going to explain exactly my thesis for what I believe happens from here, why I think that this isn't something that you need to be too worried about, because I got a lot of confidence. We're about to make a lot of money very soon. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you find any value in this video, please do me a favor, hit that like, comment, and subscribe button. And without further ado, let's jump right into this amazing video today. So for you guys that weren't as familiar with everything that's going on, the reason why we're seeing this massive sell-off across the board in the crypto markets is simply just because of the recent announcement of the trade tariffs against not only Canada, but Mexico as well. Donald Trump came out and announced trade tariffs over the last week, at the end of last week. Throughout the weekend, we saw a lot of fear kind of leading up as news articles came out talking about it, as why the prices of goods and the cost of everything were going to go up even higher. People started to panic sell. They began to take profits and actually exit their positions. And we saw the stock market, we saw crypto, everything kind of pulled back. But over the weekend, crypto got smashed absolutely, massively. And over that period, many people have been asking me, is this something to be worried about? Do I need to get a little bit of cash prepared? Do I need to sit out of this one? Or is this mainly just FUD before we go higher? And I wanted to break all of that down today. All of this news came out, and it was really just on the 25% tariff for any of the Canadian or Mexican goods coming to America. Retaliation tariffs were made from Canada and Mexico, both saying that we're going to also create 25% tariffs. So at the end of the day, it would just make the cost of everything go up even more, and it really wouldn't benefit anybody. So with that, we saw the market sell off, everybody panic sold. But as we're seeing the Monday morning market opens, everything is bouncing, and it's really coming on the news that Mexican's President Sheinbaum says tariffs from the United States are delayed for a month after discussions with President Trump. So at the end of the day, this is proving to just be a FUD event. Donald Trump announced the tariffs, most likely as a business decision, as a way to basically be able to negotiate more. Opening these trade tariffs, it makes everybody pissed off in that country. Once everybody gets mad, it's easier to basically streamline things. Trump has something that he wants done from Mexico. He has something that he needs done from Canada. And the only way to make that happen is to basically impose these big negative stipulations so that the deal can ultimately get streamlined much quicker. I never really looked at it as a big deal. I didn't really expect that he was just going to leave tariffs open. And I expected that we would have somewhat of a meeting between both of these, and then somewhat of a deal and agreement would be made. And that seems to be the case. We have to still see how the meeting with Trudeau goes, but at the end of the day, seeing the Mexican president pivoting and then them actually delaying this, I think it's an ultimate sign for what's going to happen with the Canadian meetings as well. So going into that, looking at all of our markets, Bitcoin pulled back massively. If we jump in here to the 4-hour time frame, we had two different FUD events take place over the last couple weeks. This was the DeepSeek AI FUD event, and this was the Tariff FUD event right here. So we saw these two massive pullbacks, but to be honest, guys, I don't think that this is going to be any reason to be too fearful and shaken out. What this looks like to me, it just looks like an ABC correction. We came all the way back down and retested the level that I was targeting in my live stream last week. I told you guys that if we were to lose this level up in here and unable to hold the breakout, we were most likely going to revisit all the way back down to 92,000. And that's exactly what we've done. So as long as the market is showing this much strength, bouncing all the way back up to the upside, I think that it is more reason to believe that this was just a FUD event. There was nothing really more than that, and I don't anticipate that we're going to see any more downside. The thing with Bitcoin is Bitcoin had this sell-off and the altcoins had this sell-off, but Bitcoin's still holding its range at 100K, right? If we come over here and actually take a look at Ethereum, Ethereum had a much bigger sell-off, right? But here's the thing I want you guys to remember. We've done this a couple different times. If we look at Ethereum and we look at literally every single time that this has retested this trend line, it's bounced. Every single time we tag this trend line, we have made and produced a higher high. It's never once not done this. You could maybe argue this most recent time right here, but to be fair, this is still a higher high, right? If we're looking at this, the wick came all the way back down, fully retraced this move. However, the candle body is closing back above this resistance, right? So nothing has changed. This is a big wave C correction, right? Because this was just A, B, and C. It was an extended wave C, but it doesn't change anything because the price and the candle bodies are still closing bullish. This is a 2-day candle. We have 7.5 hours, basically this day to go before this closes. My guess is this is going to end up peaking up here even a little bit higher. And this whole entire thing is going to look similar to like the COVID capitulation, right? Where we saw that big giant shakeout that took place, everything nuked. Seemed like everything was going to go to zero, and then it just slowly regained that entire move. I anticipate it's going to be relatively the same when we're looking at the price of Ethereum today. You know, overall, this will probably just kind of reverse this move, and then it'll start to make that next bigger breakout. Seeing Ethereum maintaining higher highs and higher lows, I do truly believe there's no reason to be shaken out by this. Us getting a retest of this trend line is nothing more than a buy opportunity, considering when we're looking at Bitcoin being all the way out here in new all-time highs, we're kind of following a lot of the same events that we did in the last cycle, which if we come over here and take a look at the Bitcoin dominance, this is the thing I want you guys to be paying attention for. Notice here, Bitcoin dominance made a massive breakout, right? When Bitcoin made this small sell-off and ETH made this massive pullback right here, and along with all the other altcoins, the Bitcoin dominance made a breakout, or a false breakout, because if we're looking at this, we still are unable to truly break out of this high. Notice, this is our range high that we were at. We made this massive move all the way up to 64.5% dominance, but the candle body is closing below resistance, right? We're still closing back below that prior high. So if this candle continues to turn red and drop down in here, we still have, you know, basically a full week to go before this weekly candle closes. So a lot can change in that period. But if we see this reject and it turns into something more like this, where you have this big type of exhaustion move before it just rejects down, I'm not going to be the least bit surprised if this is actually that reversal point that we've been waiting for the Bitcoin dominance. If we were to see this thing make a red candle close and have this big tall wick on the top, it shows that there was heavy profit taking place. And in my opinion, when we're taking the time to zoom out and look at how the prior cycles have played out, it's very much the same. Because here's the thing. Let's pull up both of these charts. We're going to look at Bitcoin and we're going to look at the Bitcoin dominance, and we're going to compare how they've played out in their prior cycles. Because here's the thing, guys. When Bitcoin peaked in the dominance all the way back here at the top of the 2018 cycle, we ended up seeing Bitcoin drag in that bear market, but throughout that bear market, Bitcoin dominance rallied higher, right? Bitcoin dominance ended up peaking all the way up here in about September. It was pretty much at the first higher high that Bitcoin made on that breakout. After Bitcoin peaked at 14K and we kind of went through this slow, drawn out sideways action, the Bitcoin dominance was also selling off. And it was kind of inside of this bearish channel, lower lows, lower highs all the way through. And once Bitcoin actually broke back above our resistance right here, we flipped that level at about $10,000 as new support. That was where we saw altcoins in the toilet and Bitcoin dominance made a massive breakout. And it was kind of the final bull trap, right? Bitcoin dominance rose from here all the way up to $42,000 for Bitcoin. And altcoins were at literally their cycle lows. If we look at this same chart, Bitcoin went from $10,000 to $42,000, basically 3x in one move. And most of the altcoins throughout that entire time were still at their range lows. If we look at the Solana chart, remove our drawing tools and come all the way back to basically when this cycle began. Solana, when Bitcoin dominance made this big move, Solana was right here. Bitcoin dominance had just made this bottom at about 57%, and Solana peaked. So then Bitcoin dominance rallied when Bitcoin went from 10K to 42,000. All of this was rallying all the way up here, and all the altcoins were bleeding, right? Bitcoin was going up, they were going into Bitcoin was going into a new all-time high, and the altcoins were actually selling off and just going low. They were just making lower lows and lower highs. So we ended up seeing a capitulation take place a little differently. It was right here at the very ending of the Solana dip when we had just pulled back 70% approximately in this move. It was at the very bottom of that the Bitcoin dominance peaked. And it was also at that same price that Bitcoin price was also just sitting at, you know, $42,000 before it sold off. So we've seen a couple things play out in our prior cycles, right? We've seen Bitcoin make these big breakouts into price discovery and the altcoins have lagged. That's something that's the case every single bull run. Now, if we're looking at where we're at today, I think we're at a similar point where Bitcoin dominance has done nothing but just continue to trend up, even in the same ways that it did in the last cycle. Bitcoin is sitting all the way up here into a new all-time high. Altcoins are still, you know, relatively low in their cycles. And I think that if we're looking at this being a similar point, this could be the true cycle top right here. If this candle closes bearish, the weekly closes bearish at the end of this week, and this thing is ultimately going to be looking like a rejection candle, I'm not going to be the least bit surprised if we're kind of at that same moment of time in our cycles where Bitcoin's already made that big push into new all-time highs. Maybe we make another push like this, and then that's when the altcoins finally start to do their thing, and this chart starts to top. The thing I want you guys to be aware of is that the altcoins just simply aren't going to move until Ethereum actually breaks out, and that's the big thing that we're waiting for. Seeing Ethereum make this big washout, coming all the way back down to retest that main trending support, I do believe that this is the very real potential where this could finally be topping, and if this rejects and we close bearish on the weekly, I think it's only a matter of time before this thing ultimately tops and we start that reversal back down in the same ways that we kind of did over in here in the last cycle, because Bitcoin went from $10,000 to $42,000 all in a big price discovery type of move and markup. Altcoins didn't do anything in that entire period. They were all the way back down at their cycle lows, just waiting to start to break out. So if we're looking at Bitcoin dominance relatively at a similar point as our last cycle, many of the altcoins at relatively low points in their consolidation in similar ways that they were in the last bull market as well. Don't be surprised if Ethereum reverses, we really start to attack these prior range high levels, and this thing really starts to teleport in a big way. I'm not going to be the least bit surprised to see something like this play out very soon, and I think that we're finally at that moment where this could actually be the reversal point we've been watching for. Altcoins are 100% dependent upon Ethereum. If Ethereum isn't going to reverse, if Ethereum isn't going to finally start to outperform Bitcoin, then the Bitcoin dominance will continue to climb up here higher. So we're at an interesting point, but if we're looking at the last cycles and comparing, Bitcoin did the same exact thing and actually led the market. Most altcoins were just way below their all-time lows as Bitcoin was just consolidating up here. I think that although it's a different, unique situation, a new cycle, new coins and things, I think that we were actually looking at a very similar type of consolidation before this thing actually tops and we start dragging lower. So guys, this is the video I had for you. Wanted to break things down, why I think this is ultimately just FUD before we go higher. I'm not really leaning towards this being anything too tangible. I think that we're going to see all of this finalize between the meetings that take place today between Canada and Mexico as well. We should see some finalization, and I think that they're just going to kind of kick the rock down the road. And at that point, I think at some point we'll just make some type of deal that works for both parties, and then there really won't be any tariffs from there, and the market will just keep going up. So guys, if you did find value in this video, please do me a favor, hit that like, comment, and subscribe button. You don't want to miss out on any of these videos. If you want to see anything that we're actually buying right now in this dip, links are in the description to go ahead and sign up on my private group on my website. Lifetime access to anything I'm doing with my portfolio, so you guys definitely want to be able to follow along with that. Make sure that you see exactly what I'm investing in going into this bull market. But with that being said, I'll catch you guys in the next one. As always, peace out.